Did you listen to Jeff and Professor Hemo in the morning? Here's what you missed.
Old man, he looks good in a suit.
No, I've always been a good dresser, not a flashy. No, I don't gold. But that one is yeah, he looked good.
No, but
gold shoes. Yeah, Songo looked good yesterday.
You are implying that governors think.
Unaingilia gavana wine. Gavana wine and I think squeezy.
The people who make you doubt whether neurons fine.
And yet we keep electing them.
Yes. Imagine.
We keep electing them.
And that's the issue. You see, in 2010, we had one Songo. Today in Nairobi, we've got how many other thuggish politicians who are naming themselves young? This is the problem. Our birth rate for corrupt and silly politicians is getting higher and higher by the day. We used to have one per county. Now there are 3 or 4 or 5.
But you see, Mark, I've always told you this, Jeff, I've always said this. The issue is not even them. Because we know them. We knew Sonko back in the day when he was boxing in shops and,
and lying on roads.
Of course, that's the guy we knew. We've known Babu, we know. I mean, for what? We know these guys. So I think the question we should be asking ourselves is, why do we keep repeating these mistakes? It's not because of the content of this guy's character that we know. No. It's the acclamation of the majority. So when everybody says, who could go to Nanda, that's where we go. And a good reflection of ourselves, by the way.
Yes. But also, let's not forget that political parties in these countries do not have primary. And therefore, the political exercise at the grassroots level is left to thugs. When you hear the term political activist, it also means he moonlights as a criminal at night. No, genuinely. That's what it is, because political activist is the guy you call to go beat up your neighbors at night. That's what happens. So what we've done is, because we do not practice democracy, and this is true of Jubilee, it's true of ODM, so there's no democracy at the grassroots. The only people who can even become a ward representative for a party are the people who have thuggish tendencies.
But that is true. Yes. That is true. So we come in late.
Yes.
We come in late. Like in primaries. Like what Mark is saying is very true. The guys who are there in the primaries, when it matters, are usually the thugs.
Okay, gentlemen, let me ask you this. Last week's State of the Nation. The reaction is very mixed out in the streets, but let's get your honest reaction. Mark, you first.
Well, I wrote an article before, and I talked about the State of the Nation has got to address itself to the weakest link in the chain that's called Kenya. The weakest link as we speak is the deplorable poverty and the death of our kin and kith that we ignore all the time. The weakest link is the parts of this country who think Kenya is still another country away. The weakest link are the people who, if you give 200 shillings, they don't know what it is because they've never seen it. That is what the president should have addressed himself to. The fact that Turkana has 80% poverty and 90% famine. That's what he needed to address. Without addressing that, you've not given us the State of the Nation, because the State of the Nation is not the strength of the SGR. It is the weakest among us, and them being represented. That is the biggest task of our time.
But Mark, I thought nobody, we were told nobody has died from hunger.
No. Jeff, I went to Baringo myself, and I was so traumatized I had to see a counselor because of what I saw. I saw people dying of hunger. I saw a woman who lay down the previous night, prayed to God and said, if you can't send an angel, then let me die where I lay. Because she was sick, she had not eaten in days, and when I showed up, we showed up with 2 of the volunteers we went with. The woman was in tears because she could not believe someone in Nairobi cares about her. So you tell me, because the problem is, you go 40 kilometers, there is no hospital. 40 kilometers, there is no road, there is no hospital. Then you, as a deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, would dare say, show me an autopsy. From which hospital have you provided? There is no morgue, there is no hospital. When you die, you are left on the side of the road, basically. So how then are we going to determine that these people have died of hunger if you're going to do autopsies? Why haven't they gone to the ground and knocked on that door and found out just how it feels to go a week without food?
And and we say that 21st century Kenya, 21st century, people are still dying of hunger.
And guys, we are looking at Turkana, just because it's been highlighted on TV and already on the media and Baringo. Jeff, and how am I thinking of this?
Yes.
I've seen this thing happen in our backyard. These things do happen. They are continuing to happen. near. You know, cholera is now biting. But I think out of the state of the nation, I would have actually liked to have had the president talk about because that's the issue now. You know, I'd really have loved for him to at least talk about things like the wage bill. I hoped he would have addressed the MPs talking about hiking their salaries and all that. But I think corruption took the day, and I think many other things took the day. I liked the part about the economy that I liked. I liked the part about education where we hit the 95%. These are milestones, Jeff, which have never been have never happened in the history of this country.
But we
So
needed
at least
more.
that
A lot of people wanted more.
We needed more, but I mean, there's something that you've said where governors are saying nobody has died, and I think it's a high time that we start looking into that local leadership. Because when we were voting these people, when you go back to what we were talking about earlier on about voting other people put into office, when you have a county that has about 6 or 5 constituencies, if I'm not wrong, and each constituency is receiving about 100 million shillings every year, and that's not it. There was some money that the county of Turkana, and I'm giving this example because at least those are the people who I knew that were given money. Out of all those constituencies, there were irrigation plans that received money. All right, so we would have expected by now, Turkana at the very least, not to be going through.
Mark, yesterday, I think it's one of the Sunday papers. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was yesterday because it sounded like deja vu all over again. There's a story about Galana Kulalu. Yes. Was it yesterday? One of the
It was yesterday, yes.
And they had targeted 1 million acres. This was going to turn around the entire economy, I guess, agriculture, and turn it into a bread basket.
Yes.
It is a basket case.
Yes.
And the Israelis who invested a lot of money into this, in fact, one of the Israeli ambassadors was saying, or the envoy, was saying, this is a terrible sign.
Yeah.
Who will want to invest?
Yeah, but that's the issue. Look at how many companies have wanted to invest in Kenya and have to pull out simply because a governor or a government official said they wanted a bribe. And they took their business to tiny little Rwanda or Ethiopia, which is a police state, simply because when you have corruption in a country, business is not predictable. What is scientific is no longer predictable. Israel has turned a desert where they live into the breadbasket of the world. But they come to Kenya and they can't do it, not because we don't have the water or the land, but because we do not have the political sense to do what is right by this country. The biggest problem with greed, Jeff, is you can never steal and think at the same time. Your IQ drops. Genuinely.
You do either one of them.
You can't. Have you ever seen yourself looking at anything greedy, whether it is a cake or a lady passing by? You notice
you become stupid.
But that's the problem.
No, I agree with Mark. Totally.
You
You get a Range Rover and you don't know that the license plate belongs to a provost.
I mean, who does that?
That's the issue.
Who does that?
2 years this group has been driving that car in the streets of Nairobi. But then Mark is right. Yeah, I agree.
No, you can't be greedy and think at the same time. It can't work. And the problem with this government and a lot of our civil service and our political class is they're filled with greed. The president himself is on record to saying that I had to work on building a maritime force in secret because if I give it to my cabinet secretaries, the prices will be inflated. Now, what does that tell you?
Tells you that he can't work with any of these idiots.
Exactly.
They're all greedy.
And why is
stealing?
And you see, that's why I was saying, I think he sits on a very good platform today to deal with these matters of corruption. And I think with the goodwill that he has, if he doesn't do it to perfection, and let's use the word perfection, Jeff, I think after his term, the president will regret. You know why? He is, given the fact that we have a new constitution, it has given him actually almost superpowers. He has a supermajority in parliament, majority in Senate. Governors and MCAs, all of these guys.
But Gabriel, all the more reason for people to want him to do more.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. If he doesn't do it, that's why I'm using the word perfection, because he cannot and he should not fail. So at the end of his term, when he's reading to us his exit speech, what will he say? And I'm so concerned about that because I think he will look back and say, you know what, I wish, what did they say? I wish I had done more.
The only legacy he will have accomplished is a Subaru. If he doesn't, I mean, if he doesn't crack this way.
And for me, what I'm worried about is you can't define a war against corruption and fight it only legally. It does not make sense. There's got to be a moral fight. There's got to be a PR fight. There's even got to be public shaming. We also have to have vigilantism. You understand? Simply because the corruption has become such a vice in this country that the IMF, looking from the outside, sees Kenya can raise an extra 1 trillion shillings in taxes if we dealt with corruption. 1 trillion shillings, which means in 5 years we'll be debt free.
Kabisa.
That's how serious it is. When you look at corruption downstream, how many people are dying? How many people do not experience beyond zero? How many people do not go to school? Let me tell you, 95% transition is nonsense, and I'll tell you why it's nonsense. No, let me tell you why it's nonsense. Because you're transiting the people who had the privilege to go to primary school in the first place.
Yeah.
There are people today who I met who in Baringo as we speak can't go to school because their parents cannot afford school uniform. So when will they ever transition? They'll transition into anything. And you see, if we do not address ourselves to these issues as a republic, as a country, as a nation, and then we keep playing these games of saying, I'm not going to fire a CS because they've not been taken to court. Yet 2 weeks ago, you fired a chaser without taking him to court. Which one do you want? Pick a struggle.
Mark, this one you guys will want to hear. I was reading the Consulate Africa. I don't know that you read that channel. They were talking about the top 10 countries in Africa that are food secure. And top of the list, you'd be shocked, it is Tunisia. And everybody finds themselves there, you know, Egypt, Morocco, all these countries.
They're all there.
They are all in there. And
All
the
the
number
desert
10,
countries.
yes,
Yeah.
the number 10 actually, Mark, shocked me. Number 10 in Namibia.
Another desert country.
Namibia. The eastern third of Namibia is the Kalahari.
That's correct. What do you mean that? The
Kalahari. The two Bushmen. You remember Bushmen?
Yes.
And those guys don't die of hunger.
The gods must be crazy.
Yes.
No, the gods must be crazy. Those
Yes.
guys don't die.
And by the way, okay.
the guys who run naked in the bush.
Yes.
Egypt
Yeah.
beats us, Jeff, and they are getting their livelihood.
Are we there?
In our backyard.
Are we talking
No, where?
Eh?
We don't feature anywhere.
Listen,
Egypt are getting their sustenance.
From us.
Our background, our backyard.
Egypt.
Yes.
Egypt from Lake Victoria.
Yes.
Kenya can only be top 10 in running marathons and corruption.
2 things.
In that order.
And if you see their fish farming in Egypt,
Yeah.
all the water comes
Which is
from Lake
funny.
Victoria.
Yeah.
So to me, this is a mindset issue. I think the more we keep talking about this issue of corruption, we must also address ourselves.
Okay,
The
gentlemen.
fact that we are so dim-witted that we can't see.
We're too dumb. We're too dumb. We admit that. Gentlemen, let's switch gears and go to another dumb level. So, 2 by-elections last week.
Yes.
2 kind of shockers, if you will. But then people are already claiming credit. They're saying, you know, it's us. We have beaten you. This is a preview of 2022.
You know, let me tell you something. The saddest part is how you can belong to Jubilee and be happy about the victory of what is it called, MDG? MDG.
Yeah.
Now, first, that just tells you the mindset of our leaders, that they really do not care about democracy and how it is done. But even worse is the daylight robbery of the victory of the people of Ugenya. Because the truth is, if you ask them what David Ochieng did in 5 years, each one of them can testify. And I've heard this with my own ears. The projects that he's done, how he changed schools, the colleges that he's done. He's done an amazing job. So for once, the people of Ugenya have said, you know what, Baba, you stay with your candidate.
Yeah.
We will vote for development. We will vote for change. We will vote with our feet for what we want to see. Now, the problem is, the moment you brand David Ochieng, your candidate, Mr. DP, you've just robbed the entirety of the country from being set free from the shackles of six-piece voting. Whether it's Jubilee six-piece voting, because that's what gave us Sonko and Waititu, or whether it is ODM six-piece voting, which gave us that guy in Homa Bay. You know,
Which guy?
the guy who can't see, but he's still governor. You know, yes.
You have to qualify this man. This is your view of you to go in government.
No, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yes.
So it is six-piece voting that keeps gifting us these nonsensical leaders. So the people of Ugenya have finally set themselves free from what ODM used to do, where it was forcing candidates down their throat. Now ODM really has to play democracy and make sure the next time they do nominations, it is free and fair. But what is the problem? Now you want to bring in the issue that anyone who ever loses in Ugenya, it is not a victory for the people, it's a victory for William Ruto. That is not how it's supposed to be done. Because it's the people who won that election.
By the way, on a serious note, give credit to HTU. I don't think actually, I never had it, probably you could have, but I never had where, DP said he was supporting any person. In fact, I never had where Jubilee said it was supporting any person. What Jubilee said, they were not running, they were not fielding candidates.
Yeah.
So I think politicians, and you saw, once Funa saying that if you vote for this candidate, you're voting for that candidate. You're voting for DP. If you vote for this candidate, then this is what it means. So I think it's ODM, from where I'm sitting. They are the ones who ended up actually giving them a knee-jerk reaction. They are the ones who said, this is our candidate, and this is what we believe in. These are the candidates, this is the person who's supporting them. And I think that's why they are finding it very hard right now to define, how that by-election went. They would rather run away from it, despite the fact that there's anybody taking credit. I don't think Jubilee should take credit for it. It is wrong, even from the DP side, to say, they're taking credit for it, because actually, from where I'm sitting, I don't think they supported those campaigns.
They said that his supporters, even though Jubilee said that they wouldn't feel any candidate, they said the DP.
Let me help Gabe. Gabe, for future reference, there's Jubilee Party, whose spokesman is the CS without portfolio, our good friend Rafael Tuju. That's Jubilee. Then there's Jubilee URP Tangatanga, and that spokesman comes from DP, Murkomen, and things like that. Those two entities are no longer the same. Let's stop lying to Kenyans.
No. What I'm saying, Matt, is this. I think what Danny ended up saying, what ODM ended up saying, is what actually has boomeranged back to them. Because they are the ones who created this narrative, if you look at it. They are the ones who said, this is our side. If you vote the other side, that is the person you're voting for. Actually, if you look at how back it came, even in Embakasi, right now they've kept quiet because they know the mess they created. For the longest time, Mark, what I would agree with you, is that our politics has been shaped by creating, those sweaty kind of moves. You say, if you're not with me, you're with that other person. You know what? I may not be with you, but I'm not with the other person. And by the way, that has happened. Moabe could have not been with ODM. I mean, he's actually in Waipa.
Okay, gentlemen.
Ochia could have actually not been with ODM, but could have been him, his own person.
Is this a blow to ODM?
Well,
totally, yes.
Yes, of course. And ODM, let's just call out ODM. The idea that ODM is Baba and Baba is ODM must die. And it must die not for the benefit of Jubilee, but for the benefit of democracy and for the benefit of ODM itself. ODM must allow itself to be democratized. It must allow itself to have a primary elections. It must allow itself to take itself through the dignity of bigwigs being shot out of big offices. That's what democracy is about. And I must warn my country that we are left literally with two parties that have the potential of holding out past 2022. That's Jubilee and that's ODM. ODM actually has bigger chances than Jubilee. But the thing that will kill ODM, the kunguni in their clothes, is called their own worship of Baba and thinking that everything that you ever need to do in terms of your campaign is praise Baba and insult everybody else. That game plan has got to change. Has got to change, because if you look at their chant, okay, Tibim Tialala, they meant absolutely Nothing.
Zero.
But that's what they did, because all they know is they will have to come, Baba will come dance and then say a few things, and then they've won an election. That formula no longer works. Kenyans want and desire more. It is shameful even if you look at bad performing governors who do not invest in their counties. Why is it that 6 out of 10 are from Nyanza? From ODM, you know, then you're telling us you want to change the country to what? To Omabe?
Jeff, Mark, that's why I was saying.
Yeah.
If we are able to bring up very strong parties, very strong formations, if you will, if Jubilee was to have another serious party that they are competing with, I think that would be good for our democracy. And even if they are going to just be two parties, the way you have the Republicans and the Democrats, and I think that's that's what was being pushed. I think we should be having very, very good politics in our country. Yesterday I saw something very funny. Mark, this is crazy. These people have been going at each other's neck for the past 2 weeks. Yesterday's game at Kasarani, you had Raila there.
Yeah, as patron of God.
Yeah, yes. At the same VIP lounge, you had Murkomen there. Oh yeah, they were having fun. They were
Joking, laughing.
Oh yeah. Then you had Dinyoro there. So it was So
and they're abusing each other out there.
Yes.
We are the game.
Politics.
We are the game.
But gentlemen, the hypocrisy
yes.
of Jubilee, let's say, right? Now wanting to get rid of William Ruto and sending all kinds of emissaries and all kinds of lieutenants out there. The minor commanders. Before it was Murade, remember?
Yes.
I don't know how successful he was. Yeah. But the hypocrisy, right? It doesn't take just, isn't it sickening?
It's a con of man, by the way. It's a con of man. And this is where they believe. First of all, unlike Mark, I think the strength that Jubilee has is because they are together. The minute they slide out of that mark, forget Jubilee. So I think what has kept them together now, here now, is the fact that the president can, go say things there and still at the end of the day walk and go see the deputy. There's still that element of we are still together in this. Yes, there's the building bridges, and obviously those people will be there.
But none of us know what happens, outside of public light.
Let me help Gabe. Gabe, listen. Let me tell you, when your parents are about to get a divorce, what they do is every time they quarrel, they buy you chips and cocoa. That's how you know you're in trouble. You hear them quarreling at night, you hear that at night, then they wake up and buy you sausage.
So who's getting who's getting who's being bought sausages?
This is what has happened in this country. Ruto goes to Kisumu, and another minister reads the president's speech, and the deputy president is there. Before even the news is printed, the next picture we see is Ruto with Uhuru at a wedding.
Yes.
Okay, Ruto and Uhuru have beef over the weekend. The next thing we see publicly is Uhuru visiting Ruto
and having lunch with him.
Let me tell you, those are signs of divorce.
And you're telling
now,
me,
let's
go ahead and read almost half of his speech on corruption from what the deputy is saying.
Let me finish.
The one who's been talking about the vigilante and
let me finish.
Trying to.
Yeah, but let you finish.
Let me
finish. You see, where Jubilee is now it's either of two things. That one, you got married, like that Chinese man who married this chick who was a model. But she did not tell you she had had plastic surgery. Then you have a child, and they look like Jeff.
Without me.
And she tells you, by the way, this is how I used to look before surgery. There's a high likelihood that in the marriage called Jubilee, that someone has realized that their spouse does not look or act the way he used to think they act. But now as things stand, because of our constitution and the presidency is a singular ticket, you cannot fire them, you cannot hire them, you can only tolerate them. So what you do is you fight on one side, then because you need to keep this thing going for a while, you come and show the kids that everything is fine.
And then you bring another girlfriend into the house. Called handshake.
Handshake. You know what I'm saying? And what you do, just let me finish. What you do, you see, let me tell you, the reason why men fear divorce is not because your wife will leave you, it is who will accept you. So any good man, before he files for divorce, you find the next wife, and a car pending.
Warm up. Warm me up.
You know,
Super son.
when the divorce court settles, you upgrade.
Gabriel, let me ask you this. Yes. Do you see William Ruto leaving Jubilee anytime soon?
I don't think so. I don't see it.
You know why?
You know why?
Tell me why.
He's actually the guy who created Jubilee. Why am I saying this? Why am I saying this? He was the first person to say, let us merge and collapse these parties. In fact, he moved his first, URP, right? And the other parties to merge and come.
I don't think David Murado will agree with you, but...
No. But those are the facts. Those are the facts. Ask anybody who's been there. He was a very key architect in Jubilee. And that is because at that point, Jubilee believed in having one giant party. I don't think they've shifted away from that thought, Jeff. What I'm concerned about is the splinters that are coming into Jubilee. You must ask yourself why. Because if you're talking about, if the issues were about on corruption, it is touching on almost everyone who's been there before. And let's be honest about this. Just the other day, I think a year ago, it was actually Raila himself who had taken the people actually very close to the president when it came to matters, the health equipment, you remember? He was saying the president must tell us about this. The president must talk about this corruption in his own house, all right? So these things have touched on almost each and every person who has come before. The president, Raila himself, Kalonzo, Mudavadi, Wetangula, everybody.
What's your point?
The point I'm making, by the way, Jeff, is very easy. I do not see the deputy president leaving Jubilee until you say, or until the PG meetings are called in and they say we have a Jubilee. Then that I'll believe. But for now, no.
Gabriel must congratulate you for being a bigger optimist.
I mean, the government is made. I mean, Jubilee is in government. How do you have to be very silly to spoil something that is still in government?
Well, didn't you just hear what Mark said? You can't think and
feel at the same time.
So that's why I'm saying it will be very foolish at this point.
Jubilee
is not going anywhere.
Let me put it to you in perspective, okay? On paper, Jubilee will exist until August 2022. On paper, okay? But in reality today, if you were to ask yourself, who is the biggest enemy of the president's fight against corruption? If you were to answer the question, who were the biggest and most vocal people against the office of the DCI and DPP? If you asked yourself, who are the people who say that the fight against corruption is a witch hunt, it is based on a tribal attack, you will know it is one side of Jubilee. If you take it even further, if you walk into a room and you say, in a nook, and one person says, why are you pointing at me? You definitely know. And then I said last night, Jeff, I said, you see, if you say that I have set a trap to catch a bear, what is the likelihood that that trap will catch a rat? Impossible, correct?
Correct.
Because whether it's a net, it will be too big. Whether it's a bear trap, it will be too big.
Yeah.
Now, the question is, we set a trap to catch the corrupt. And then you came and said, we've set the trap to catch you. Now, who then politicized that issue? Who then made themselves a target? If you were innocent, you would keep quiet. Number two, let us understand that being investigated in this country is not a crime. This country is at liberty to come and investigate Mark Bichachi. It is not targeting me. The IRS in the United States will arbitrarily call someone and say, by the way, we just want to look at your tax records to see whether you've been complying. Subjecting yourself to investigation is not being abused. It's not being stopped from being president. And then this idea that Ruto is the only one not to be stopped from running for presidency. Is it a coronation in 2022? Is he Prince Ruto? and then someone who is trying to stop him from being coronated. It is a democratic process. If Jeff says he wants to be president of this republic and I want to stop him, that is how democracy works. So I don't understand why everyone is crying around saying that people want to stop Ruto. It is their democratic right to want to stop him.
Anybody saying that there's somebody running to stop Ruto, then I think they are out of their minds. Because I believe the way I've seen the Jubilee structure, and that's why I'm going back to the Jubilee structure, the way I've seen it structured, because I've read it, is they say that at the end of it all, they'll have candidates who will be wanting to run on that particular, under Jubilee, who will actually be subjected to party rules, where they'll go through the whole hierarchy, and the delegates themselves will choose their presidential candidate. So Ruto is not an automatic selection when it comes to that. And that's what I would expect. And that's why, Jeff, I keep saying, I wish we had two major parties whose structures were actually so lined up that we can go up the hierarchy selecting who the best candidates are, just like the way they do it in the US, and if that's where we are heading, then I hope we get there. The issue about corruption, Jeff, and we have to be keen on this when we are talking and really pointing at individuals. Just the other day, man, we were talking about everybody pointing the DP being corrupt. This one did not start the other day. And don't forget, this man is still a very key lieutenant in Jubilee. It didn't start there. You remember when they were having campaigns in 2017? Everybody was against. In fact, they were saying, we don't have a problem with you, President Uhuru. We have a problem with this guy. But yet, even today, nobody has been able to bring in, and that's what the president said just the other day in his speech.
How short our memories are.
Hang on a minute. The president in parliament said the very same thing. The president, while in here somewhere, he said, "Kama una
how did evidence?
Peleka wapi? Kiambu Road." Why was he saying that? Because he said the war against corruption will not be won in the media. Okay. That is something we have to be so alive.
2 points to consider.
Go on.
There is a neighbor uko Eldoret. Alikuwa neighbor mtu fulani. Shamba ikaibiwa. Koti ikasema irudishwe. Have we forgotten that happened? Juzi. The hotel.
Western.
Okay. Wasn't it established and confirmed on BBC News by himself, saying that it was illegally acquired? Now, why are we on Bogo's case for getting the 3-liter Range Rover Pro Box hybrid? And no, wait,
Mark what you say. So this guy should be behind bars.
Let me tell you. Let me put it in perspective.
This guy, if we have what he's done, if we have what we've stolen, we have proof, the man should be in jail.
Let's start here.
In prison.
Let's start here. You see, there's something called political responsibility and moral responsibility. If today, not today, America is a different place. If Barack Obama was found to own an acre in the middle of Pennsylvania, which is stole from an old man during post-election violence, would he have been president for a day more?
Never.
Of course.
Never.
Without even a court case. You see, the biggest problem with this country, and the reason why Hitler rose to power, by the way, was simply because good people like you and me began to give apologetics and explanations about how good the Nazi party is. And the truth of the matter is, and this is where I stand, we must call out evil wherever it appears, whether by smoke or by fire. Wherever it appears, we must call it out. And if they call us then enemies of people, so be it. But we must call it out where it is. We must also call out the President Uhuru Kenyatta if he be found in anything that is corrupt. The goodness is, if you look at the history of Uhuru Kenyatta, other than the one time where he said there was a typing error. No, we must say these things like they are. Right? That is the one thing that I would blame him for.
Also Mashetani.
Yes, also Mashetani, right? But also the one thing that we must undo that Jubilee blessed us with was the fact that you can have a court case and still run for office. This is why governors can be accused of murder
and the next day they're in office.
Exactly. So these are the things that we must correct. So this idea that because I am in Jubilee, I must speak nicely of Jubilee and I'm in ODM. No. It is time we call a spade a spade. Because what we've done throughout this time is window dress issues. You know, we keep calling people pharmacists. Can we just say so and so is a drug dealer? Because I don't understand why Parliament has immunity, and these parliamentarians will go there and say, one day I'll table a list of terrorists. Table them.
What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? It is the cowardice to speak that is ailing our country.
In fact, Jeff, that's what I'm saying. If we know for sure, we have the officers that are mandated by the Constitution. These officers are there. We pay them. All right? They are given so much money by Parliament. They have a budget annually. And you're saying the next person after the president is corrupt and he's still operating. Forget what you're telling me about political responsibility. Forget about what you're telling me that, you know, we have, there's that political goodwill. No. The law is the law, and the president has actually pronounced himself to that very many times. He says nobody is above the law. So what are you doing with this man? Subject him to the full wrath of our judicial instruments. Let the man go through what he needs to go through. If need be, let him resign. Actually, not even resign. Invoke. We have Articles 150. You know, invoke them. Put the guy in committee. Period.
That will never happen. Let me ask you this. Bichachi, a moment ago, you talked about evil. Evil in our culture, society. 25 years ago yesterday, a genocide began that led to 1 million people being killed in 100 days. And 25 years later, the country's turned around. Incredible. You guys have been to Kigali, right? Yes. Incredible what Kagame has done. But now, he's been fighting with his neighbors, maybe now more open than before. What's going on with this man? Is he losing it?
Well, Kagame has two agendas. Agenda number one is Kagame understands, because of the size of his country and the fact that it is landlocked, he depends on the Congo. The truth of the matter is the Rwandan economy, half of it is in that Congo country. And therefore, for the same reasons, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has had interests in Congo for the longest time. And listeners must understand that bullets are not cheap. So you cannot be as poor as Congo and fight for as long as Congo has fought without money coming in somehow. And that money comes in through these two countries. I mean, many other interests, the Americans and things like that. But to localize this, what Kagame is doing is he's fighting for Rwanda's space in the Congo. Right? And therefore the border disputes and all these things that he's fighting for are tactics to secure his interests in the Congo. Number two is that Paul Kagame, being the strategist he is, knows that at some point, given the pressure he is under, he will have to step down as president of Rwanda. At some point, he will have to give it up. I do not think he will do another term beyond this. If he does, then he is going to face the decline of everything that he's built. So if he knows that, then one of the things, and a little bird told me this, I'm not telling you which one, is that he is trying to prepare his space as an African statesman. He wants to make the move that Raila did and Mandela did and things like that. That's what he's preparing ground for. So those two factors combined, because then if he's going to be an African statesman, his reason for that is to continue to protect the interests of Rwanda. It is not to protect the interests of Africa. So what he's doing right now is preparing that ground.
No, I think they've also caused it. If you look at Kagame, he's really been causing with Congo, and I think probably not from what you're saying is because of the economic reasons and that can be
resources.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course. And the other thing about Uganda, you know, they've always not seen eye to eye because he's always believed, Kagame has always believed, Uganda has actually been, call it hiding or given a piece of solace to the people who have always wanted to. Exactly.
But listen,
so, and even when they left Kigali, I think when they left after the genocide, I think most of them actually went into Uganda.
But you know, he used to be Museveni's chief of staff. You know that?
He did.
Chief of military staff.
Yes. And you know, if you look at all the people who have been close in combat, I think their friendship actually becomes crazy after they there is always somebody who sells out the other. The reason actually I do not know, but it does happen even with people like Akina Thomas Sankara. Even you see, when you look at somebody like Akina Samuel Doe, somebody is sold out. Probably it's because of what they, it's probably because of what they go through. But again, I think why Kagame may be doing this, people are saying it's because he's the chairman now.
But I know that's a toothless dog over there.
And he's
but I agree about the resources, the coltan, the gold, everything that's coming out of Eastern Congo, which is unstable for a
Yes.
particular reason.
Yes.
It's not unstable because, you know,
Yeah.
those militias are, you know, are just savages.
Yeah.
It's there for a reason.
Of course.
Someone funds the militias so they can destabilize the area. Someone goes in, mines the coltan, mines the gold,
Yes.
takes it out. Some of it ends up in these streets.
Yes.
What?
No,
Where?
What? It's part.
Kenya, there's no. It's Jeff. There's no gold in Kenya.
No.
My friend. Wait. Give.
The minute that they start saying
32 billion.
get attacked.
32 billion the other day.
Yes.
Remember? In a house in Rwanda. Yes. I'm sure it was parked next to a Pro Box Range Rover.
Yeah.
By the way, Bichachi, hold on.
Was that
Bichachi,
money?
You know, you just said something so profound. Remember when they found that 32 billion
Yes.
equivalent, right?
Yes.
There was USDs,
Yes.
there was euros, sterling, there was all kinds of foreign currency, right?
Yes.
And someone claimed that it was fake, right?
Yeah.
Why didn't the FBI storm in, or MI5, or Interpol?
Yeah, who is that stuff?
Why did they swoop into this place and say, where are these fake dollars? We want to see them.
Yes. And
By the way,
and you see,
Ask yourself that.
that's a very good
no, but
question.
it's a
And even your guy was your guy was caught. Jeff. You remember that? Malwan. That is
Your guy.
It's a contract.
No, it's your guy.
Is he my guy now?
Because he was saying, you know, did you watch that interview, man? He was saying, Jeff, you will never watch my Jeff, what job do you do? What's your part-time job, Jeff? And by the way, that's
you
the
watch
watch
you saw 32 billion Kenya shillings.
You see, the thing is, that the truth is that there is no way, humanly speaking, whether it is in dollars or sterling pounds, you have an operation like that that is not a danger to the world economy. Okay, it's not even a Kenyan issue. 32 billion shillings is a lot of money in any language and in any currency. Whether it's Mugabe's or Trump's, it's huge money. So the fact that this was not souped in by the FBI is also telling. But also remember, the other day, in fact, Gabe, it was you who was sharing with me how Kenya had been listed as one of the top money laundering countries in the world. So,
But then we've hit the top 10, Jeff.
We have
Guatemala, Mexico.
I told you.
We're in the same league.
Yeah. With a lot more poverty. But anyway,
Yes.
you see, the issue is this, Jeff, that we've become a kleptocracy. We've become a place where the person who steals leads. That's how it is. And our competition in politics is not who will be commander-in-chief, it will be who will be thief-in-chief. That's what is happening in this country. And if we don't realize that, you see, there's something that worries me, okay? Our national debt, by the time we hit 2022, will be about 11 trillion. Okay? 11 trillion. Now, based on how our GDP is growing and our taxes are growing, we will probably be collecting between 4 trillion in tax at most. Best case scenario. Okay? Now, you tell me that after Uhuru, we decide to elect someone who we even think slightly will be corrupt. Then imagine if they slightly do not pay that debt. Let me tell you what happens with your insurance, with your bank account, with your fixed deposit. Overnight, a dollar will be 200.
Yes.
The next day, it will be 300. The day after that, you'll be living in Argentina because our economy will be totally shattered. So your savings, your plan, the money you're putting away from your child is all gone. The problem that Kenyans don't realize is for once in our history we are on the edge. We're not like where Moi was. Moi had very little debt. Kibaki had very little debt. Uhuru is going to bless us with 11 trillion shillings of debt. Some of it commercial, right? Meaning the day we do not pay, our Kenya shilling is devalued. The moment it is devalued, it becomes more expensive to pay. And the moment it is devalued, everyone will rush to convert their shillings to dollars. Meaning that your 5 million will be 500,000 in under 2 days.
Like Venezuela.
Exactly. And that's what we are playing. So it is not a matter of saying, oh, I'm in Tangatanga, I'm in Kieleweke. My friend, you've walked into a situation where there are thugs, there are rapists, there are killers. and you're busy walking around with your handbag in the air. That's what Kenyans are doing.
Jeff, let me tell you what I'm concerned about. on this issue, I'm the guru. I'm the guru when it comes to that. You see, I've always been concerned, and I had a very good conversation with somebody from Wall Street, and he was telling me the fact that during Kibaki and where we've come, during Kibaki we were trying to grow wealth, and we had actually done very well. When Obama was leaving, you saw how the crisis that he went through and how he was able to jump ship, bring people in, and he was able to sort all that mess. We also went through that. The problem is, instead of sitting down to ask questions, what do we need to produce more? Jeff, we stopped producing and we continued borrowing. It is not bad, by the way. It is not bad to take the debt that we are talking about. America owes China trillions of dollars. So that is not the issue. The issue is, as we sink more into debt, we are still producing less. That is a very bad combination. But then if we were producing more and we are getting more debt, trust you what, nobody will be feeling this. Right now, as we speak, you saw the headlines the other day. We are continuing growing poor. Our poverty index from 2006 actually has continued to decline, which means what Mark is saying is actually very true. By 2030, there will actually be you see the community class that you're talking about, where you have people who are able to afford gas in their cars. That, by the way, will disappear. It is headed to disappear. Fueling your car, Jeff, if you're not in the super rich, will be a problem. And that's where we are heading. If this equilibrium that we are heading, if the trajectory is what we are having, Jeff, the first thing we are going to lose, and you can count, you can set the day to day. Remember, on this day, put it in a timer. Counties will disappear. There won't be counties. Will not be able to sustain. And before you say cut and a half, Jeff, will not even, the collection that we are having, because people will actually now start putting their monies, and it has happened the world over. They'll start putting their money in the strongest currency. And that's what you see.
That's what Mark just said.
And you see, that is why people like, Ethiopia, the all dollars are controlled. Because they went through a time where the local currency people never believed in it. Zimbabwe.
It's also a police state.
Actually, Zimbabwe is heading away. You see like this issue of Mira. And then here is where I jump our governance party. See a company like British American. All right? Yeah. These people are still bringing in their cigarettes. We cannot take our Mira. But because of that, somebody will tell you, oh, there's an issue, Mira is causing Sijui, what? Cigarettes, what are they causing, Jeff? This is a cancer causing, endurance. So when you look at how these guys are playing out, they'll give you funding. They'll tell you, instead of Mira, we'll give you some pounds. We'll give you 4 million pounds for you to look into other alternatives. So, Jeff, 14 for every dollar we get, for every pound we get in a day, we lose 14 to trade restrictions. And that's a trade.
Mark, it's about almost time, and I want you to have the final word on this. Okay, going forward, you guys have laid out a lot of things. Tweets are coming in thick and fast. And Kim Tai Korea says, if someone calls someone a drug dealer and not a pharmacist, quoting Mark Bichachi. I love this one from Brenda Wanjiro.
Yes.
He says, Bichachi, you've made my day. When your parents are about to divorce, they'll buy you chips and
That's somebody probably doing.
All right, Bichachi, you get the final word.
Here's the thing. There's something called the middle class bubble. And this is how it bursts. If you think you have money and a simple diagnosis of cancer in your family forces you to have a harambe, know you live in a middle class bubble. Okay? That if today you fell sick, there is no cover enough to keep you safe, then you will know what Gabe is saying is true. That this middle class that we value, this middle class that cannot be bothered to go vote, cannot be bothered to demonstrate on the street, this middle class that accepts 16% lying down, that is the middle class that will die first.
Yes.
And when you begin to realize that, then you realize that you are voting. The person you are choosing because you think they will give you a tender is the person who will hang you by the noose. That's the person. And if you are not clever and you're not careful, you will not realize that living vicariously through the presidency of your tribesman is nonsense. You ask the people of Baringo, you ask the people of Kikuyu land, are all of them rich?
No.
are all of them living in State House? Does State House have houses for all Kikuyus? No, it does not. So the truth is, we need to wake up and smell the coffee. And what we need, people have tweeted me and said, do we need a revolution? No, no, no. We just simply need Kenyans who will sit down, look at a voter's roll and say, you know what, I am going to choose a leader who is visionary enough to change my country. This idea of choosing thieves who hide in Mtuangu, please, I am being targeted, I'm being followed, we should not have. In fact, if any politician rises up and tells you, I'm being targeted in the war against corruption, please target them as well and make sure they don't win.
Solidly put, gentlemen. We need to have this conversation more and more, because you know many people are sick and tired. Sick and tired about being sick and tired. But as I was telling Prof the other day, remember Donald Rumsfeld, former U.S. Defense Secretary? Yes. And we talked about three things: the known knowns, the known unknowns, and the unknown unknowns. Where are we in all this?
Somebody has to arrest the situation. Yeah, that's why. No, when you read
somebody has to arrest somebody.
Yes.
And when you read about cases like I was giving you the example last year, last time I was here, I told you about Chairman Mao. I told you about the Malaysian. They arrested a situation, changed, and they used very radical measures.
That's it.
Up until such a time when you get somebody who will arrest this situation with radical measures, Jeff will be here yapping our jaws out.
Yeah, and
or pissing against the wind.
Oh yeah, exactly.
It's all landing on us.
Yes, and that's the truth. And I like what Gabe said, radical measures.
Oh yes.
You cannot pussyfoot about arresting people.
No.
You cannot say, listen, you know, this logic, last thing I'm going to say, if you have intelligence and your CS is about to sign a corrupt deal, now according to the president's logic, he'll wait, the deal is done, it is finished, then he will go to DCI, report, then fire the guy. Does that make sense?
No.
Listen, if your house help steals a spoon, how long will she have that job? If I come to your house, Jeff, and all the time you're saying this house help cooks bad food, next month this house help cooks bad food, and you've not fired her, I can only conclude that you've married her.
You're the cook. You're the chef.
In fact,
This is what we call
Candid interviews with decision makers. Join Nange and Professor Hamo every day, Monday to Friday from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. only on Hot 96.